Hi everyone, this is Brian Sutton with Art Party Unlimited. Today we're going to paint a pretty mountain scene for beginners. We're painting in oils today, but I have done a rough sketch of today's painting in a neutral gray acrylic paint just to keep me on the right path along the way to completion. I'm applying some clear gel medium and titanium white only to the sky today to get started. I'll save some for my water that's coming later in the video. The rest of my canvas will remain dry for the duration of the painting. I'll paint in my sky with a very light mixture of phthalo blue and titanium white. I want my sky to be sunny, bright, and cheerful. I'm opting to do my clouds today with the number 4 synthetic filbert from Richeson. You can find this and all the other supplies I use for this painting in the description below the video with links. I'm applying titanium white with just a pinprick's worth of alizarin crimson to warm up the color a bit. I'm being very gentle with the brush. A heavy hand will spell disaster. Final note, be very careful with the amount of that alizarin crimson that you add to that white or it will completely eat up your paint. For a complete real-time lesson on how to paint these clouds, please click the link in your upper right-hand corner of your screen. I'll show you in detail how to make these clouds like a pro. There's no need for excess paint on the canvas, so I'll just wipe it off. I've mixed some Bob Ross Mountain Mix with some titanium white to lighten the base color of my mountains. Lightening the color will push my mountains further into the background. At this point, I need a bigger brush to make this go faster. Whew, it would take all day to color that in with that filbert. I'm using the same titanium white alizarin crimson mixture I used for the clouds to start placing the highlighted side of my snowy mountains. It doesn't take much paint. Since I have very little paint as an underpainting, getting the snow on is a breeze. For the shadowed side, I wanted a few deeper shadows to help with contrast. In part 2 of this painting, I'll do more work on the highlights and shadows, but for this video I want to get everything blocked in and we'll work on details in that second video. I'm diffusing the base of my mountain with a nice method from Bob Ross that I teach to my classes still. I'm popping in a small line of trees here that will head up that mountain slope. You guessed it, I'm using that number 4 filbert with a mixture of phthalo blue and cadmium yellow to make a light green. More yellow than blue in the mixture to lighten it up. As I move forward to the foothills, I've taken some of the mixture I used on the line of trees and placed it into some mountain mix. I'll use an old number 4 filbert to touch my canvas to give the illusion of thousands of treetops. I'll come back to these trees a bit later in the painting. They're not quite finished. I created a bit of mist a moment ago so that I could more easily place in a line of small trees and shrubs closer to what will be the water later. Again, I have the number 4 filbert with a light green mixture. It's almost all the way yellow, but as I touch the canvas it mixes with the blue from the foothills to produce a pretty green. I've darkened the mix by adding in some blues so that I have variety in my colors. I'll do it again in a bit. I darken my color here with a bit of blue and some midnight black, which is a very dark violet. That'll add in a bunch of shadows that I really need here. I like to make a lot of my trees and limbs with the number 2 rigger from Richeson. It has super long bristles and it's perfect for the job here. I'm using a VanDyke brown and dark sienna mix, mostly VanDyke brown though. I'll revisit the tree on the second video after the paint dries. For the water, I thin down my phthalo blue and titanium white mixture with some clear gel medium. That will help apply the paint to the dry canvas. I needed a little slicker to make reflections go in easier. I'm going to put in a very simple sloping back to the water using VanDyke brown and a number 2 bright. And now I'll just use a light titanium white, dark sienna, and VanDyke brown mixture to add some subtle highlights to the bank. A water line goes in pretty easily using the cloud mixture. Keep this line thin and horizontal. You don't need too much here. Out comes a number 4 filbert again with a mountain mix and green mixture from our bushes to make the evergreen. I'm just using some back and forth swishing motions to get this tree in. You don't need a bunch of details because the tree is only an ornament in the painting. It's not the focus, so we don't even really want anyone paying attention to it. Oops, I forgot this evergreen is on this side of the lake. I'll correct that in a second after I get some highlights in with my light green mixture. Told ya. The foothills were too dark in value and too singular in color for my liking, so I'm going to let you guess what brush I used to go back in there with some yellows and greens to put some highlights and character in those trees. Just another quick attempt to get a highlight onto that tree on the other side of the lake. For the underpainting of that waterfall, I'm using a phthalo blue, Prussian blue mixture. Since I'm in the extreme foreground, I'm going full strength on the mountain mixture green mixture to get 100 on the value scale. That will be the case with all the elements I place in the foreground. I'm using a fan brush and my cloud mixture to gently place in the water. My 3/4 inch rake is going to get my next layer of highlights on the waterfall. Rakes are fantastic for any water feature with tumbling or falling water. The rocks on either side of the waterfall are just combinations of VanDyke brown, dark sienna, and titanium white. I need to dab off some of the oil. The paint is awfully wet, so I'm using a blue shop towel. It's a great tool. I'm using the cloud mixture to dab in some splash from the waterfall. The fan brush works really well for this too. Our major elements are now roughed in. Come back for part 2 where we'll put in the detail. I'll let the painting dry before I come back to it. It will make things much easier. Please hit the subscribe button below the photo so you will know when we post new videos. And be sure to click on one of the videos on the left of your screen. See you next time.